3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have great conversations with great people, and any great conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us this week. Appreciate you. Cheers. There
Cheers,
it
guys.
is.
Yeah,
I know you got your whiskey too. What are you drinking today?
I am drinking Iran. It is black cherry and oak, and it's nice, warm, slow burn.
Delicious.
So I appreciate you guys for having this at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
No worries. Our Wednesday productivity goes way down, but our dreaming and scheming goes way up.
There you go.
Absolutely. All the crazy ideas come out of Wednesday afternoons. It's wonderful.
This is true.
So for those of you that do not know Stephanie Gorton, or formerly Stephanie Smith, for those of you that don't know, she is the VP at the Energuy. She's been in the industry for 5 years. Of course, if you don't know Energuy, they partner with HVAC, plumbing, electrical, solar, home improvement contractors, provide high quality energy ratings, permit services, rebate administration, the works. They are fantastic to work with. We've heard from many, many people that they enjoy working with you. They love working with you. But how you came into the job was a little bit unique in that you were a customer at first and then randomly applied to working with them and applied to one of their job postings. And of course, you got the job because you're pretty incredible, I've heard. And so far from what I've gotten to know about you from Thaddeus and from some of your customers, they've had nothing but raving things to say. So I'm really excited to dive into this conversation today and definitely sip on a lot of whiskey. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No worries. So how did you get started into the trades in general before you, like when you were a customer with Energuy?
Well, I wasn't just any customer. I was like a nightmare customer, like the perfect customer to train on. If you go into our software system and pull up my address, there's like 25 notes. Like, she sent the HERS rater away. She has questions about the permit. Cancel the appointment. Homeowner has to go to work. Like, it's the works. It's terrible.
Nice.
So, I was a customer. One of our contractors did my install. Somebody who's my really good friend now, sales manager over at that contractor. Before I knew him, I called him up and reamed him a good one for not telling me all about the permit process. And then later applied for this job, just kind of spreading my wings from a nonprofit industry, and then cruised through our software system one day and thought, wait a minute, my address is in here. Oh my gosh, I was the worst ever. And now I understand. Now I get it.
That's
So well, a couple of our programs were built later to like help confused, pissed off customers like myself. So there's a lot more clarity there.
I love it. Well, and one of the best ways, though, as a company to build your customer experience process, right, is to find your most difficult customer, be able to solve their issues. And if you can solve their issues, you can solve pretty much anyone's issues.
Yeah, it gave me a lot of empathy for our contractors' clients that like they need to know what's going on. They need somebody to explain it to them. There's like 6 or 7 people in their house and calling them, and like you need to walk them through the process and help them understand that there could be fines or on their home if they don't close their permit. And so we do that. We handhold everybody now, and it's great. But also, while interviewing for the job, they had a couple different interviews. And on the second interview, the manager actually recommended that I didn't get the job. Like, he was like, I don't think it's going to be a fit. Yeah, so that was interesting. And then more conversations. And I actually told our president, Eric Barrio, I don't think you guys should hire me. Like, I have 0 experience. You want me to come in and manage all these men in a job I've never done? Like, oh, I don't know. And he said, no, we need someone who can manage people and processes. The rest we can teach you.
Right.
So yeah. So then I got thrown into the fire day 1, and here I am.
That's amazing. Thad, I cut you off there. What were you going to say?
Oh, I forgot. But I did write down my next part because you mentioned something that, management, and it's no secret that females have it shouldn't be this way. Let me clarify that. But there is this notion that there is sometimes an uphill battle for female in a man-dominated trade. So looking at the female aspect of things, and I know this wasn't one of the preferences that we even talked about that I wanted to get into and cover on the show, but it is. And so how, as a female going into this particular role, managing men, as you mentioned, what are some things that you did to be able to, I'm trying to think of the word. I mean, the thing that exert dominance, but that's not the right phrase that I want to use here, right? But be able to establish yourself as a leader within that industry for yourself. But then also, how do you help other females to be able to level themselves up within the trade?
That was a lot of questions in one.
Yeah,
one
I know.
there,
I tend to do that. I mean, you watch the show, you should know that by now.
Yeah. So how do you come in to manage a group of men who know you've never done their job before? So you immediately are lacking credibility. You come in and you have really raw, authentic conversations with them. And the elephant in the room is, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. And some humility goes a long way. So I don't know what I'm doing. I'm here to learn from you first. So I'm going to ride along with you on your jobs, and I'm going to take tips from you, and I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to hear you out. And then later I'm going to manage this team, and it's going to be my way and my style. But along the way, we're going to have some very candid conversations about how that works. So that's about how I entered that. And other women, go ahead.
No, I was to say that's perfect. And anybody that needs to rewind and replay that and re-listen to that, because not just for females, by the way, anybody moving into a managerial role, that you nailed that, right? Like I've even went through that myself when I was 25 years old, managing condo buildings and sitting in a board of directors with people that are 55, 60, 50, and they're like, well, some young punk. But that exact same conversation happened, and it allows you to be able to then it removes the friction, or removes the barrier, because like, oh, this person's actually going to listen to me, right? They're not going to come in just my way or the highway right off the bat. No, you work on collaboration together, which is key for that. So the next part of my question obviously was females looking to enter into the trade.
Oh, that's like part of my heart for this industry, is that females not being in leadership positions is a disservice to the industry. Like, I have worked with some incredible women so far. And you know what? Finding someone who can relate to me is very hard right now. Like, it's really difficult to make those connections. So anytime I see an opportunity to connect with another woman, I make very apparent that my mission is to lift her up, even if she's competition. We have women in the field, and I talk about it all day long, right? So there's a conversation between like, what do I do for my career? And after these last 5 years, I can say, don't underestimate the HVAC industry, for sure. So you like the difference that can be made. And so every time I talk to a woman, I tell her like, jump in head first. You won't regret it. And we do everything we can to promote women in Energuy. And we actually have a secret logo that one of the partners designed, and it's Energal.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of exciting.
No, I love that. And you look at something like Lady Titans and what they have on the go, and creating this community specifically for women is a huge thing, to be able to do that and help each other out and really level up. And I agree with you that not having enough women in leadership is a disservice because of the different viewpoints that one can bring to it. And the one of the things I noticed that you had, tips for contractors. It was you're listening to Susan Frew discuss how powerful women consumers need, and it was a couple of the tips. Don't tell a female consumer you'd like to wait until her husband gets home. Don't underestimate the decision power we have at home. Listen to your female consumers, right? There's such a different voice when you can have a female in a leadership role along with a male in a leadership role. And if there's unison in working together, the power that organization can have because of the different viewpoints is going to move the needle so much greater than if it was one or the other.
Agreed. And there has to be that balance, right? So I don't like to get too far into like women only, because there is that balance that we need to have between men and women and our perspectives in the world. But like together, like you said, it's very, very powerful. And we have the ability to multitask and run circles around some of the men that I know. So hire us.
Multitasking is a farce for men. I cannot multitask. There's one thing and one thing only.
And then you shut down that thing and you do the other thing instead.
Right?
It's just switching. It's task switching, not multitasking.
No.
You mentioned competition, and obviously within your space, there's a lot of competition, and there's some bigger guys, some smaller guys that you're competing with. Guys used loosely there, coming off a female conversation there, and
very literally
both genders into it. But how is it that you deal with competition at Energuy? And what advice do you have for contractors when they're dealing with competition within their markets?
I try to create alliances. Like I have some pretty amazing competition that I respect for different things, for different reasons. We all do something really well. And one, I try and learn from my competition. Two, we don't really focus on a lot of what the competition is doing. And it's the same as being a human being, right? You can't like compare yourself to others and figure out what everybody else is doing and then try to copy them. You just have to be you. We have to be Energuy, and we have to live up to our culture, and we have to do what we do well. And all of my competitors are all out to do the same thing for the industry. We're all out to support contractors, and we all have different talents and focuses. And so I create alliances, and I don't really pay attention to their prices or what they're doing. We just kind of do the Energuy thing.
I like that. Focus on yourself and stay in your lane, but at the same time, get an assist where you need it. And it's the idea of an abundance mindset. And you see this quite a bit in terms of the different, I guess, posts that people put in Facebook groups or worrying about what their competition, and I'm speaking specifically to HVAC contractors at this point, trying to pay people to get their competition's quotes so they can see the pricing, so they can match the pricing to their competitors. Like, no, get fucked. Don't do that shit. That's stupid. Focus on yourself. But when you can have an abundance mindset and help each other out, man, you got a lot of power in that. I'll use our company, On Purpose Media. We have the digital marketing company, and we are part of a group, the Seven Figure Agency, a guy named Josh Nelson. Also, by the way, plumbing and HVAC SEO, right?
Wow,
the guy literally has a digital marketing company serving the exact same niche. And you know what he does for anybody that's in the business, even HVAC? Come on in. Yep. Here's some things that I do that I've gotten great results with. Take it and run with it, because you're going to actually end up helping the contractors out more than if you're to just try to do it alone. So an abundance mindset can go a long, long, long ways, no matter what industry you're in. Digital marketing, Energuy, sorts of things, HVAC contractor, it doesn't matter your business. Take an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments from we went to Victor Rancour's event last year in Vegas, and during one of the nights, one of the evening parties that was happening, there was a guy that I had met from the Portland area, and he was just getting started and he was really struggling. And so we introduced him to Travis Smith, who Sky Plumbing, Heating and Air and Electrical, right in the market, his competitor. And the two of them sat down for 2 hours and just chatted, talk shop, how to build a team, how to grow the market, how to grow together. It was amazing to see. And he came out of it, and like, that was the highlight of the event for him. And it was fantastic. It's incredible to see what happens in the trades when you can elevate each other and bring everyone up. So thank you for that. Also love the focus of putting the blinders on and be so busy and consumed with what it is that you're doing. It doesn't matter what competition is doing. I love that.
Yeah.
One of the things we wanted to get into was around culture. Did you want to get into that now, Thad? Because you had some great questions for that.
Sure. So, I mean, this is like, there's a lot that goes into this, and I know I'm going to toot our own horn here a little bit, I think, because I know in our original conversations, this goes back, a month or two ago, before we even had a conversation about you coming on the show, or maybe it was when you're looking at coming onto the show, that you actually use our podcast for some of your trainings. And we are, first off, very humbled and grateful that our show has given that much value to you and your organization, that you now make it a required listening for some of your employees, which is, again, extremely grateful and humbling on ours. And we know that the work that we are doing and the value that we put forward is helping businesses out. But when it comes to, I guess, that in your business, in creating this culture of ongoing training, hang on, I'll get to that. Let's talk about our show first.
Oh, let's talk about your job. I was going to stop you and say, let me toot your horn for you.
Right. I was going to get down the road. I was going to ignore it for a second, but I'm like, nah, you know what? I will take off my humility hat and let's talk about our show and what you do within Energuy with our podcast.
Okay. So there's a couple of things that podcasts don't do very well. And what I don't like to listen to is host-centric podcasts. You only know so much. Like there's only so much you guys could bring to a podcast. What I love about the podcast and what I think brings the most value to our team members specifically is that you open it up to so many different perspectives of the industry. Like I literally don't even have time to train on all of that. And part of our training and big picture training, we call it, is painting a picture of a contractor's office. And so our team can get confused and think like, oh, they're not answering our emails. We're trying to get their permits for them. They're not answering our emails. So what I do is I say, okay, there's an install coordinator, there's a sales manager, there's a GM, there's an executive, there's an owner, and that install coordinator is answering somebody that's going crazy. And this is the owner's dream. And this is the GM's dream. And the GM's trying to buy his first $1 million house. And like all this stuff is happening. And you're like worried about getting model numbers from on an email. Like we're not the top priority. But what you do is you bring to life those personalities and the dreams behind those personalities so that our team can hear how passionate our contractors are about what they do and talk about real issues in the industry. So while we're worried about getting a model number, you're hearing your contractors come on, our contractors come on and say, look, I'm worried about staffing right now. I'm worried about developing talent right now. And so then we get to hear like, oh, so our model number email is not that important. And it's just eye-opening. It's just to hear it and to hear how casual it is. It doesn't feel like we're sending our team members to like a module learning experience. They get it just like I get it when I'm in the contractor's offices every day.
And they get a drink while they're watching our show too.
Go for it.
We encourage it.
Don't walk over any cords or like trip on any ladders or anything. No.
Right. And if it's 1 p.m. there, maybe watch it on team replay like an hour or two later. So it's not quite like during your workday.
Yeah.
But right. But it's funny because I think to our show in what we've been able to accomplish with it and how it started was just us opening up the curtain. Ice cream counts. Yes, ice cream counts if it's whiskey flavored. Actually, if it's cookies and cream, you have my blessing, Josh. Eat it all day long. That's one of my favorite ice creams. But when you think about like how Evan and I got started on the show, is literally just us pulling back the curtains of our business and where we were at, and we're like, okay, let's start having some guests on and start asking them questions. You're right. Podcasts that are host centric don't really fit the bill. Like when I listen to my podcast, if it's a host talking the whole time, well, if they're a super smart, educated person, great. But I would just rather listen to an audiobook and be done with all of their teaching and then move on to another audiobook of somebody else. But those guests are really what make it there. So I appreciate you sharing that. Now, you said that you had, since we're still talking about us, which we don't do very often on our show, you said that your office has a question. We don't know this question, by the way, just so anybody's watching. You mentioned it earlier, and we're like, don't ask us until we're on the show. But you guys have a question for us.
Yeah. How did some Canadians, like obviously we have a Canadian division and we started but when I found out you guys, wait, you're in Calgary and you have all these connections with these US California based contractors. What did you do? Like, how did that even start?
It was just reaching out to people. It was connecting in Facebook groups, starting to meet people, networking online, because we started the business and the podcast in 2019. And so COVID hit.
And the podcast?
Yeah.
The podcast was in 2020. Business was started in November 2019. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, COVID hit and we're like, shit, what do we do? So it was all online. It was all through social media. And that's, Victor's event last year was so cool for me. Dad didn't get to go, but I went and had a great time. But getting to meet, oh, absolutely.
Yes. See you there.
Nice.
Yeah.
But to meet like Ishmael in person, fantastic. So such a cool person to meet. Victor, to meet him in person. Jason Julian was there, one of our clients. Getting to meet him in person. Like there were so many incredible people that we've had on the show. Devin Harrison. That we met there for the first time in person. And it was wild because I had had so many conversations with these people. I felt like we were best friends already. I stayed with Devin Harrison, and we had never met in person before. It was just through online chats that I had met these people. I felt like I was a millennial dating people online, but all for business. It was great.
You guys do such a good job with US presence that it was later, way later in the game that I found out you guys were in Canada.
Yeah.
So good job, because I was like, wait, I hear that accent. I know what that is.
No doubt
about it. It's funny. But here's the real, like, I've worked with 2 different organizations in the past that were US based companies that have came to Canada. And what I found is that the US doesn't necessarily understand Canada, but Canada understands the US a lot more. Just because of the way, I mean, you look at somebody in Florida and they don't understand what winter in Canada is like, right? But us in Canada know what Florida can be like, because when we go on vacation somewhere like that, it's hot as fuck and we're sweaty, right? So we understand the pain points, right? So it's just a little bit different of a knowledge base on that, which I think allows us as an organization to be able to better go into the US market, in my opinion anyways. At least that's one of the reasons that I think it works. And plus, I think we're just pretty cool shits. There's a Canadianese for you.
Right.
So back to you guys. Big picture training. I wrote that down as I wanted to dive into a little bit about what that means and what do you guys do in that, because you talked a little bit, you briefly hinted at it where, the owner has their vision, the GM has their vision, but what I'm assuming the big picture training is going down to the granular level with every single person and working on what their higher why is. So if that is in fact the case, what does it look like? How do you do it? And how does that help you guys in your culture and what you guys have built?
Well, people want to know why they're doing what they're doing. Like, you have SOPs, you have processes, you have all these really granular micro processes even. Why can't we do this? Why do we have to respond to a contractor and say, instead of saying, no, we don't do that, why do you say, yes, and this is what it will require? Like, how do we do that? How do we support the contractor's dream? And how do you get involved in that? So we said, you know what, everybody that comes, we actually studied Ritz-Carlton's training, which is you're going through 250 hours of orientation training. And then you're going through a year of being on probation before you can make decisions. But once you understand the why behind the brand for any company, you know why you're coming to work and what purpose you're trying to accomplish. Like, what does my role have to do with this big BHAG they're talking about from scaling up? So we start at the beginning, and why is your role important? And why is responsiveness important? Where did we come from? Where are we going? What do we expect out of each person? What's an A player? What are these characteristics we're looking for? What does that sound like in the day-to-day, right? Everybody rolls up their sleeves and says, we want a pick-me attitude. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll help. I want to try and learn that. That's who we're after. And so we spend 5 days doing that. And that's because people deserve to, when they're on your team and they're working for your company's purpose, they deserve to know why. So we spend a lot of time training and developing and doing that. And as of the last year or so, I deliver that training in person myself as much as possible. Our vice president of operations is participating in that. Our executive team is very heavily involved because we want to meet those people face to face. And I do just about every final interview myself, just so we know who's joining our team, what they're going to mean to it, and what our goal and our vision is. So that's big picture training. And usually people are like, when am I going to get to my actual job? It's like the following week that we get into the nitty gritty, but you got to get excited about your job before you can do it well.
It's true. And you got to get excited about who you're doing it with. And again, why you're doing it. Right. And that's, my son and I, he loves to listen to audiobooks. He's 12. But he loves to listen to audiobooks. And so we listened to them together. And so we were listening to, Extreme Ownership.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah, great
book.
Yep.
Right?
Great book.
And then we followed it up with, of course, Dichotomy of Leadership after that. And one of the key concepts that I keep hounding with myself to him is understanding the why within our family. Why is it that we're doing things? Employees will rarely do what it is you want them to do until they understand why you're doing it, and that it's moving you closer to that bigger vision and core concept that you're going after. So I absolutely love that. I think it's fantastic.
Well, there's a flip side to that coin. when it comes to culture. And so
Mhm.
this is totally off cuff, but your employees need to, and we don't even say employee. We don't even have the word employees in Energuy, right? We say team members. They're part of our team. Feels
Mhm.
weird to say like you have staff for employees. They're like with
Right.
you in the trenches. But the other side to that is us understanding their why.
Right.
Like we were on a meeting last week and I told one of our managers, there's an arsenal of tools as a leader. One of them is understanding what your team members are passionate about. It's outside of Energuy, I guarantee you. It's like their family or their big vision for themselves. You got to understand that. And you have to understand their why and drive their why, even if it means they eventually leave you.
Yep.
But right then, like if you can unlock that, your power as a leader is uncapped.
Absolutely. Oh, and this is something that we've referenced numerous times on the show. Tersh Blissett, who happens to be chiming in just now, and Thad just said hey to. When we had him on the very first time, he told a story of one of his employees that wanted to open his own business. And so he pulled back the curtain and showed him everything that it takes to run a business.
Yeah.
Now, if that employee decides to take that and run and go run a great business and have a little bit of a shortcut, great. You're on the good side of that because you helped them get to where they wanted to go. If they look at all that and they say, shit, that's a lot to do. I don't want to do all that. It now reinforces them to be an even better employee or team member, to be able to step into that role even more because they appreciate and they have so much better understanding what it is that you do as a business owner. And so they're willing to work harder for you. And we've used that lesson numerous times on this show because it's so important.
Absolutely.
And it's funny you mentioned that because I've been having one-on-one calls with all of our team this week, diving into what are their big goals. And some of them went straight professional and where they want to go professionally. Some of them went highly personal. But I encourage both of them to do both sides of it because our life is not binary, just this and that's it. And this is the only area we want to focus on. We have so many different areas of our life that we need to focus on. So it's been incredibly rewarding to dive into that with the team.
Yeah. And sometimes you got to like, even at the cost of losing someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mentored somebody last year and about 6 months later, she left the company for something better.
Right.
So that was kind of funny. And it was like, oh, wow. But it was still cool. It was still good. Yeah.
Well, and when you look at that experience, what would you rather have? Someone who is incredibly motivated to show up to work every day because they're working towards a bigger dream and going to put in a tremendous effort and you're investing a lot of time into, and then they leave, or someone that you invest no time into is unhappy. They're not doing a great job. They have no training because you don't want them to leave. And instead that's who stays.
Well, right? Our VP of operations, Cam, actually just referred to that. He taught me a term earlier this week, I believe, or maybe last week. It's called quiet quitting.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys heard of that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Where it's just like totally disengaged, and we talk about that, and I love to do that, and that was done with me at Energuy as well. Like they absolutely opened up, like Eric and Cam and the owners of Energuy, the initial owners of Energuy were just like, what are you after? And I kind of told them, I'm only going to be here for 3 years, guys. And then I'm done. Like, this is just going to be a stop on my journey. And eventually I want to work for myself and I want to do all the stuff. But those guys pushed my passions and dreams and nothing, no matter what I've done. They're like, yeah, we'll support it. Totally had my back. So we do that to the whole team. And it makes a huge difference. 98% retention. So I think it's just investing in people.
I was going to ask you about that question because I saw that on a LinkedIn post with your guys' 98% retention, which is a phenomenal stat for employees. But this goes even further. Those one-on-one conversations, right? That we still can't get rid of her. Cam's chiming in right now. I saw Evan laughing, and I'm like, he's gotta be reading a comment. So, and of course, my distraction ADD brain looked down at it and forgot what I was talking about. But looking at this, this buying, getting people bought into the company's vision, along with the one-on-one conversation that Evan you're having with our team right now, and finding out what some of their higher whys and what some of their passions are. And I'm assuming that you do some of that now in your current role. what does that conversation look like? Where do you even begin? So let's pretend I'm an HVAC business owner. This concept is new to me. I'm like, shit, I should probably get them on board with a higher vision and a higher why. I mean, well, first off, the company needs to have that. But assuming that they have that, how do you then sit down and have a one-on-one conversation to be able to say that to somebody without being, I guess, too conceited or cocky about the company?
I wait till I'm asked for my opinion, first of all. I usually don't interject it until I'm asked, like, man, how do you guys keep people? Like, we don't really have a staffing problem right now. We have a very thorough interview process. It takes about 1,000 resumes to even hire one person at Energuy.
Wow.
And somebody will say, like, how do you guys keep people around? Why you have the same people and they're great, and how come you don't have a staffing problem? And then I get to answer that question. What are you doing? Like, who are you talking to? And I'm in those offices. And I'm in the offices typically at a very tumultuous time, right? So the permits are behind, something's happening, and I get to watch the interactions. And through the relationships I've developed, which is just like what I told you about the Raiders when I first started, it's very candid, very upfront. Like, hey, you guys have a lot of potential here. You have a lot of business coming in. You have a lot of leads. But this person feels lost. I'm telling you, like, this person doesn't have enough direction. And most of the time I'll actually say, like, I'll just come in. We'll come in and we'll help this person. We'll teach them about permits. We'll teach them about Title 24. We'll give them some help they need to answer those questions if they don't know what they're doing. But this person needs some direction. And I'll ask that person, if it's an admin or entry level, hey, like, what's going on in your life? You have any kids? I noticed pictures and looks about 12. I have kids similar age, and just a real natural conversation. Then I get to tell a CEO or an owner, this person is their goal is actually to buy their house. Did you know that? To buy a house, they're a single parent, to buy a house for their kid and them, and to have somewhere stable. If you help that along, they'll be here forever. Or, we work with the top performing contractors in the state and the country, and we work with the not so top performing contractors in the state. And one of our favorite stories is just that, is it's working with companies who have those core values. And I worked with someone who said, my goal, was surprised, first of all, that I was even asking. And then my goal is to buy a home. I want to be a homeowner. And I want to get promoted from install coordinator to install manager. And I thought, oh, that's awesome. So excited, been with the company for 10 years, like, bleeds their brand colors, works 24 hours a day, answers her phone, does all this stuff. And we had a growth plan together. Okay, we'll take all this off your plate and then you can focus on that. And the manager's there, if we would have that conversation, and I said, hey, this person wants to become a homeowner, is really interested in providing a stable life for her child. And the more that conversation happened, it was just natural to come up and have that conversation that was candid, open. And sometimes they'll ask me, what do you think I'm doing wrong? What's wrong with my staff? What's the communication issue? They hire somebody new and they'll be like, what do you think of her? What's going on? And I'll be, oh, well, what's the probability of her staying? Like 3? Like, maybe we could do something different. So it's just that, being really open and having those conversations and noticing and taking the time, and then risking that you're going to piss a contractor off when they ask you about your opinion. You can ask, do you really want to hear it? Or are you going to get mad at me for my opinion? And that kind of breaks the ice to begin with. And then you just lay it on them.
Right. Well, thinking about, bigger picture, that's you guys working with your guys' contractors, your clients, for that, to be able to go in and help their team and help coaching, and almost like a consultancy role, which is super fascinating to be able to say, hey, we also help your team. When we're doing it, we're not just your what you do for Energuy. It's just not that. We do a lot more, and we go above and beyond, which is also cool, and which is probably why a lot of your team also probably likes that as well, that they can say, hey, I can also help and impact that. And so for somebody that's a business owner that takes that over there, just have a natural conversation with somebody. That's it. That's all you have to do, is don't talk about work. Just ask them about something personal and let the conversation flow. So I really love that. So, got a question?
How often do you schedule those kind of conversations with the team? to check in and hold them accountable to getting to those bigger dreams and goals?
We have meeting rhythms. So the executive team has a meeting rhythm. The executive team to the managers have a meeting rhythm. The managers to their supervisors and team have a meeting rhythm, and then down from that to the group huddles. So we try to get on those huddles as much as possible. I have an open door policy, so do Cam and Eric, and people can come and get whatever information they need, and we'll send a chat. You have a few minutes. So on demand, like when they need us, but hopefully you're developing leaders that only need you for new situations and situations that they've already tried several things with. And when they're out of things to try, then they come and get you and they want your guidance. But we also just launched a leadership series in Energuy where we're talking deep dive, how to handle situations, very specific emails, accountability, crucial conversations, those types of things. And then we also have a mentorship program where we do one-on-one concentrated mentoring with the leaders in our company to dive into exactly that. What are your personal barriers? What's holding you back? What are you afraid of? Because that's a lot of it, right? People have these deep, dark secrets in their mind. Like they dream of what they could be, but they won't say it out loud because of the accountability. So that mentorship is like, what is it that you want to do? How big do you want to get? And like pushing them toward that.
Love it. It's funny, both Thad and I came from selling Cutco knives, and that was just regular conversation there. It was always
those are badass knives though.
They are
kick-ass knives, absolutely.
You want to buy a set?
I do. It was just brought up in my kitchen the other day. My daughter's girlfriend was like, how come you don't have Cutco knives?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But the culture at the company was why I stuck around for so long. I was there for 8 years, and at that constant focus on how are you developing and growing as a person, not how are you selling more knives. It was never about that. And they have that corny joke, it's not about the knives, it's about the lives. But right. But really, that's what they live. That was the core concept of the company, was how can we continue to develop people? Because we are in the people business. We're not in the knife selling business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're being really like real on this podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the biggest pain in the ass of managing a company though, right? Is
Yep.
managing people.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the heartbeat of the company, but it's also the biggest challenge for managers is how to deal with people and complaints and issues and personal lives, and like how do you manage all that stuff? And it's not my favorite thing to do. Like if I'm saying that, but I love to watch people grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is
that's
you
a
can't tell
challenge.
people to just get fucked. Damn it.
Sometimes it depends.
You can, absolutely. If that's what they need.
What they need at the time. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes.
Probably not a good cultural advice.
Well, as Natasha says, trust. That helps keep us around for sure. So there you go.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the random question. And I'm sure that you know what this part of the show means. It means we're going to ask you a random question that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But there are three choices rather. And you get to choose what the choice is, and then we're going to read off the question to you. So do you want question 1, 2, or 3?
I'm going to take number 1. I like to take the number 1 spot. So
all right. If you were to work at a circus, what job would you choose?
Wow,
that's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Well, I won't even go to circuses, guys. Like, I don't even take my kid. I think they're so mean.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because you were scared of clowns or something.
I thought I was going with that same logic. Don't worry. So that's why we're business partners, I guess.
No way. The list of things I'm afraid of is very short. I would be the person to make it humane. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Nice.
Yep. I like that answer. The humane circus. See, I was thinking about like the non-animal ones.
That's what I was thinking too, Cam. You read my mind.
Right? Ringmaster. Center of the stage. So, well, let me ask you this. You said your list of things that you're afraid of is really small. What are you the most afraid of?
in a really shallow sense, rodents.
Okay.
Like that's an easy one. I don't like them, but I will go near them on purpose because I'm afraid of them.
Right.
Mm.
So I'll try to hold them or like go close to them just so that I can not be controlled by my fear. 2, missing out on experiences.
Mm.
Not taking advantage of things that are in front of me. Like that's a big fear of mine. Like I was talking to the president of our company the other day and about a regret or something. I think we were listening to questions on your show.
Mhm.
And when I was first, I met my new husband on Tinder. This is kind of a long explanation.
It's okay. I met my wife on Plenty of Fish, so you're good.
There you go. Okay. It wasn't a hookup, I swear. But it was.
That almost spit out his drink.
So he's texting. We're finally texting. We're asking, and I think he asked me like, "What do you like to do for fun?" or something like that. And my only regret, I think, is just I think I text back something so dumb. Like as soon as it leaves your fingertips, you're like, "Oh shit! Why did I say that? Why did I say that?" And you guys know what my response was? Like it was like bad.
Let's hear it.
I responded and said, "Anything I can get my hands on." And then I was like, "Oh no, that's not what I meant. I meant like I like to be outdoors and get experience." And he just texts back with these big eyes, like the emoji, big eyes. And I was just like, "Oh crap!" But it goes back to like, if somebody says like, "Hey, have you ever done this?" No. You want to do it? Yes. That's what I want to do. Like I'm afraid of missing out. Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
Sorry, I was gonna try to collect my thought on that, but you're right. I mean, so this is a topic of mine that I kind of get passionate about when it comes to this, right? And I like to really go off on tangents on this, in particular when it comes to like something like a vacation, right? So the majority of people, North American, US is a little bit higher than Canada. It's like 60% of people don't use their full vacation in a year. They don't use it all. It's crazy, mind blowing. And it's just like they want to continue to work and they work and they work and they work. Well, nobody ever said on a deathbed, "Gee, I wish I spent more time at the office." No, they want to go out and they have this single regret that they're there like, "Man, I wish I did this. I wish I did X. I wish I did Y. I wish I did Z." And so when somebody can just say, "Yes, I'm in," and just go for it, and they release themselves from that inhibition, but also have an organization, which I'm certain that yours is probably like this, that, hey, if you want to go do that, go do that. Right? We're not going to stop you. You know, you're going to go for it and go have fun, which is a good thing to be able to see. To be able to have that align though with what you preach and what you actually want to do though is actually something that's super fascinating. So good on you guys for having that as part of your guys' organization in there. And I don't know if Evan's frozen or if I'm frozen. It appears that apparently Evan is okay. You can hear
he's
you
just
still,
taking
yes.
a really long drink.
Right?
It's really good. Just a little sip at a time, apparently.
Right?
But, that's funny. I'll try and fix that video here in a second, but I do want to ask this question because I'm really curious. So you said you have a fear of missing out.
Yeah.
You also mentioned earlier in the show that you were only going to start at Energuy and work there for 3 years. And now you've been there for 5 because you wanted to start your own business. I'm curious, one, is that still a dream of yours? Or are you afraid of missing out if you're not going to start your own business? Or are you afraid of missing out if you leave Energuy?
That was a deep question.
That was Evan coming from left field, man. No, Energuy I see as being part of my life for a really, really long time. And luckily I work with a couple of guys that definitely support my dreams outside of this. So not really, I wanted to do consulting because I happen to have a knack for having those raw, candid conversations and pointing out pain points and then fixing them. But I get to do that here. So I don't even know if I'm going to work really. And a couple of years ago when we discussed that, they were amazing enough to bring this to me. I didn't have to ask, but they brought ownership to the plate for me. So that was good. But now I want to reach out and do a nonprofit because like your legacy and what you leave behind, but helping young women to develop those skills and get into this particular industry is starting to pique my interest a little bit. I was a teenage mom at one point, and there's a lot of things I thought, oh, I'm never going to be able to do. So I really want to focus on that group of people, and Energuy stands 100% behind that. So I have this year taken about 5 or 10 minutes every day to work a little bit on that nonprofit and giving women those skills and hopefully bringing them into some kind of opportunity in the HVAC industry would be really exciting for me. So I will continue to do that, but I'll also continue to help with Energuy. And just recently, last December, we bought another company in Canada that does these energy audits and created
Nice.
competition for ourselves, actually. So that's really exciting. Yeah.
That's really
So
cool.
continue to do that.
Well, and I love that because, and this was something that I even brought up in a couple of the one-on-one conversations we have with our team, is that your goals can change and your dreams can change. Like, I love the Jim Rohn quote of, if I had known what getting to the top of the mountain of some of those early goals would have cost me, I never would have paid the price. And like, I'm a big believer in The One Thing. That's a book that I've studied countless hours on. I've read it numerous times. I've listened to it. I've gone to courses on it. I listen to their podcasts. Like, I live that book. And one of the things that they talk about is it's about having a relationship with your goals. Well, most people just write down a goal and then they stick it in a drawer and they never see it again. They never check on it again. They don't know where their progress is. If you have a real relationship with your goals, you can check in with yourself on a constant basis to see if this is actually something that still matters to you or not.
Mm-hmm.
Or am I
Yeah.
living this through some other way, right? Most people go after a goal, not because they want to achieve the goal. They want what the goal is going to give them, the feeling it's going to provide for them. And if they realize that that feeling can be created on a daily basis, they all of a sudden don't need that thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Agreed.
really beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. And that's what all of your clients and my clients all do well, right? They all do the culture thing really well. Like, you're producing $150 million a year. I walk into those offices, I meet with those teams, and they care about their people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the common thread with all of the top performers. And not only like they have some business things going on, right? They know their numbers, they track their numbers, their prices reflect their value, right? You always have the most expensive contractors. They're at the top, and their value goes into all the service they provide. But their culture as a vendor for these contractors, I know how good their culture is because I'm in there during those meetings, but also because I'm talking to the same person from 5 years ago. I'm not getting bounce back emails like, oh, that person doesn't work here anymore. Oh, that person doesn't work here anymore. And I have to constantly tell my team for those other companies, they've had a staffing change. Now we have to get to know this person. Oh, they've had a staffing change. But you have those people and they're advancing, and you can see it, that the contractors that are at the very top that are selling their company for hundreds of millions of dollars, they have their culture together. And one of the examples that I have, like, you take the Bell Brothers or Next Gen, and at Next Gen, it's like there's a lot of pressure there. It's a high performing company, right? So internally, they're going every second of the day, and there's a lot of pressure. But the one thing they all have in common is that they all feel like Ish has their back. Like, that he's going to provide them a future. Their executives work hard because they know he does what he says he's going to do, and he helps them work toward their goals. Bell Brothers, same things. It's that person, the manager is now an executive, is now an owner, is now has share programs, and they're working their way toward that. And it's like the same person, but you see them grow and grow and grow. The culture, it's like 1,000% what makes or breaks these companies. So they all do it, and they do it well.
Well, this is a super common theme. Like, you look at almost every guest that we've had on talks about culture, right? And some people are like, well, I can never find anybody to work for me. And other people are like, we have too many resumes. Well, they're both doing HVAC. The one just has a greater culture than the other, right? Because people want to work there, want to stay there. They want to feel valued. They want to feel appreciated, in that, like, working towards their goals.
Mhm.
Like the individual's goals, not the company's goals. That's part of it too, but
Exactly.
working towards their individual goals. And so if you don't know, if you're sitting there listening, it's like, gee, that's earth-shattering shit. Well, yeah, go ask your people what their personal goals are in their life. Like
Yeah.
start there. That's an easy starting point. Go for coffee and take them out of the shop and go to a coffee shop and just have a conversation with them, ask them what their goals are. And that's when you're going to start to move the needle and creating an amazing company culture. And it doesn't have to be an ish size company to be able to do it. It can be a $1 million company, a $2 million company. It could be a $700,000 company too. It doesn't matter the size. You just have to start there and have those conversations and build it into your daily, I wouldn't say daily, but at least quarterly conversations.
At least. Yeah, for sure. Agreed. Yeah, they all do the same things. It's amazing. We get to see, we're not an HVAC contractor, but we know all of the best practices. And we know them intimately because we have those relationships for so long. And you just like, you can recognize it now within like 5 minutes of being in a company. And from the experience that you have, their communication is so fast. Like it's unclogged. It's so quick. The responsiveness time, that when you talk to somebody in install and you talk to somebody on the executive team, they have the same messaging. You're like, that's a strong company because their culture is strong.
Mhm.
And when you talk to someone who's like, what the worst thing I think I've ever heard entering a contractor's office is one of their employees throwing them under the bus.
Ooh.
Right? Like, like, oh, something's broken here. And they'll say, well, my manager wouldn't let me approve that. And that's what's going on. And you're like, what? You say we, like anytime anybody takes responsibility for a mistake, that's all of us. We all have share in responsibility. But that's how you know the culture is good or needs improvement.
Mm.
All
And they're
right, so
always innovating.
I've got 8 things written down right now in terms of like top companies versus not, because
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in success leaves clues, right?
Yep.
And it's not rocket science. If you just do what other successful companies have done, you're going to get there too, right? So what I've written down so far: core values, care about their people. They've got a culture of that. They've got a culture of support. They've got integrity and follow through with what they say they're going to do. Their price reflects their value. Love that one. Strong communication. And they've got exceptional standards.
Mhm.
Any others that you would add to that list?
They innovate.
Mm.
They're not so arrogant to think that what they've been doing still speaks to their client base.
Mm-hmm.
They just keep changing. And so in big picture training, we tell everybody, if you're a really good fit for Energuy if you love chaos, if you like turning chaos into order, because the minute the industry speaks, when I start hearing our biggest contractors, they need something and it's all similar, we need to innovate, we need to change, and we need to adapt and meet that need right now. And that's always going to happen. And I'm always going to be out there. We're going to be trying to put our feelers out, thinking, what's changing? What's the new need? And when I start to hear a common theme, okay, change your process. So get ready because it's going to change all the time. And that's the example that like we take from the top contractors. They push us to be better. I'm sure yours do too. They're always bringing something like, that's not going to work for us. We need this. And then you go to your other 3 top contractors and they're like, oh yeah. So like right now, staffing is so big for our contractors. It's crazy. Like you guys were talking about it on one of your podcasts that, dang it, who was on that was talking about if people would talk more about the financial opportunities within the HVAC industry, we wouldn't have this tech shortage. Howard.
Sounds like
yeah.
there are lots of people, but ish. I know it.
Yeah, Tom Howard.
So, Tom
Tom
Howard,
Howard,
owner of Lee's, and like it's underestimated what you can do in the HVAC industry. And being in the HVAC industry isn't even being in the HVAC industry anymore. It's also being in the tech industry.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be presented like that. Like you're coming into the tech industry by coming into the HVAC industry. And those need to be synonymous right now. But with the staffing shortage, when you work with us, we plan to add to your division in compliance, permitting, ladder drops, final inspections. I sat in a contractor's office and it's pretty simple. Like you go back to the basics. My meeting with them gets interrupted 6 times because they have a phone call. Well, a permit is this. This is why you need a permit. This is why you need a HERS rater. This is the difference in an inspector. And we thought, like, just in your phone tree, push 3 to get information on your permits. And that goes right to Energuy. Let us take that off your plate. You focus on revenue generating stuff, and we'll take everything else. So in the staffing shortage, develop your people that are leaders, and then outsource the rest to experts. Like, that's the other thing they do. That's pretty common.
Love that. So for those of you that want to make sure that you're outsourcing this and need to save some time and staffing and all of that right now, make sure that you are reaching out to Energuy. Thad, you got the banners ready?
Yep.
All right. Energuy.com. Want to make sure that you're checking out their website, get all the details on there. There's tons of value on there too. So definitely check out the website regardless if you're going to be using them or not. But if you need to reach out to them, sales@energuy.com. Of course, you can check out their Facebook posts and their Facebook feed, facebook.com/the Energuy, and on Instagram, instagram.com/Energuy Inc. And soon to be Energal.
Right. I know, since we're on the banner train, one of the things that you talked about was innovating, and companies that can innovate and adapt and change with the times are going to be leaps and bounds ahead of them. I think of somebody like Billy Stevens, Billy Go, and Sarah Tech or Sarah Systems. Of course, we have to mention our sponsor, Sarah. So if you want to get in touch with them on how they can also help reduce some of your staffing as well, and create efficiencies in your business, sales.sarah.tech/HVAC-revealed to get a demo with them, because what they're doing combined with what the Energuy does, well, you can create a bigger efficiency within your business to be able to increase your bottom line, which is not always what people are in business for, but a lot of times.
Well, it allows you to focus on what it is that you love to do, right? When you're hyper efficient at everything that you're doing, right? You're able to do more of what you love to do. I had this conversation with our video editor today when we were going through her goals list. And I was like, it can sometimes be counterintuitive. You got all these tasks that you need to do on a daily basis, but your one thing that you really want to improve on, and her one big professional goal, is to become a master video editor. It's like, so in order to do that, you need to do extra trainings. You need to study what other video editors are doing and learn from them. And by applying that, you're going to be better at those tasks. So yeah, you got a lot on your plate today. And the most important thing that you can be doing right now is taking 10 minutes to go and study. And if
Definitely.
you don't prioritize your day to focus on that one big goal that you really want to go after, it's never going to get done. Because you're going to do what she talked about, and she's going to see this video when she goes back and does the editing. So it's going to be great. You're going to do exactly what she talked about and try and fit it in when your tasks are done. But when you just try to fit it in, it's no longer a priority.
Run the day, or the day's going to run you.
Ooh.
Write that one down, Evan. Quote Stephanie Gorton on that. I know you kind of briefly went over it, but the idea of outsourcing your permitting and your HERS rating and that by just simply adding press 3 or whatever the number is to talk about your permitting, and it goes to Energuy.
Yep.
Wow, what a time saver.
Right.
4 to 6 hours a job.
Yeah.
Per
there you go.
job.
Per job.
Let us take the pain in the ass. Like, if that's what we do, all the stuff you don't want to do. Like, it sucks sometimes, but like that's the way it is. And the thing is that it's not even a sales tactic. It's like, well, by nature, if you focus on revenue and you grow and you have more volume, we do too. So let us take it all off your plate, and you just focus on installing and doing your happy calls and making sure your customers are happy. We'll answer all the questions.
Yep. Value added service right there.
Boom. Did you have any final questions before we get to the final one?
Yes. She probably knows what the final question is, though. She studied the show a few times. She came prepared. So one of the things that I know you and I, when we very first chatted, you had mentioned that you guys have an ideal customer avatar. And for those that don't know what an ideal customer avatar is, those watching the show, we're not going to get into that. It's basically, well, I guess in the short and narrow, it's the most ideal person that you want to work with. Now, you guys also know that intently at Energuy, and you will say no to certain contractors. Now, I think more people in business need to know how to say no. especially, you know, for jobs coming in and what have you. How, as a business, do you go about saying no to somebody without hurting their feelings?
Well, if it's outside of our core values for Energuy, which, you know, if you run a company, you develop those core values. And so one of our core values is treat your clients and your team like partners. So if the behavior is outside our core values, or if your core values are not aligned with us, I'm just going to say no. An extreme case of that would be, we had a very, very big account that brought in a lot of revenue several years ago. And you really want to tiptoe around those large volume contractors, right? Because they do 80% of your business. They also talk to all the industry players, but one of those really, really big players called up our team and called him an effing idiot and just kind of demolished him, right? And my rule really with difficult contractors or pissed off contractors is, don't call my team and yell at them. Here's my cell phone number. You want to get pissed off and yell at someone, like, call me. And so a couple conversations of that, and I actually packed up all of their permits and shipped them back to their office and was like, we don't want to do this. Like, I don't care. We don't care how much revenue we lose. We can't let you do that. So your core values are not to treat each other like partners. And then if we say we just can't do something, because it's like, why would you promise a contractor you can do something and then you under deliver? That's like the worst thing you can possibly do. So even in our sales pitch, it's not even a sales pitch. We go in and we talk about the contractor. What do you need? What are your pain points? What's your process now? How do we fit in there? And our secret is we're going to ingrain ourselves so much in your business model that it's very difficult to replace us. Like, now we're part of your team. So you can't really just like, oh, we're not going to work with Energuy, we're going to work with someone else. It doesn't work like that. Like, you have to disengage your customers, your marketing flyers. We do a lot of that stuff. So, but if a contractor wants us to do something that's outside our core values, we're not afraid to say no, and we're not afraid to say no to money. Like, revenue doesn't matter to us as much as having our team, like, we are credible leaders, and we can say no by saying that doesn't really match up with their core values, but I know someone who might be able to help you, and I'll refer my competitor in a heartbeat if it's not something that we do.
Well, and that's yeah, I mean, it's really powerful. And again, it comes back to knowing your why, having your core values established so you can say no, one, to customers, also to employees and team members, right? If you have a team member that is your top selling tech, but they are cancerous to your dispatch team, they are cancerous to your install team, are you willing to let them go?
Yeah, totally. Like, you're willing to go through the coaching steps, and you're willing to say to them on a one-on-one, your talents are so strong and your potential is so vast, but your arrogance or your inability to work with a team is going to hold you back here. So, like, we don't care whether you've been here 5 years, 10 years, 1 year, 15 years. If you, like, especially veterans, you need to behave as an example to the rest of these people. And we don't care how much you produce or how great you are. We will absolutely say, you know what, this probably isn't the best fit for you if you can't respect our core values. So that's something we're teaching our managers, because they tiptoe around our top producers. Oh, well, they do this many jobs and they can do this much. Yeah, but it's not fair to everybody else who comes and it is aligned with the core values for this person to be an outlier, like, because they've been here for so long. And we've had those conversations with veterans that, like, your arrogance and your inability to trust, or your inability to delegate, or whatever it is you think you're above this, you're not. And the next 2 interactions, we're going to give you 90 days to get your stuff together. But we don't even need to do the 90 days. Are you committed to doing this within our core values? Because tell me right now if you're not, and we'll make an exit plan. If you are, we'll do everything we can to work on your strengths and patch your weaknesses to be able to fit here. So we do that often. Yeah.
Love that.
Know when to hold them, and know when to fold them, right?
There you go.
No, that's exactly it. And offer coaching first, right? You don't jump straight to firing and straight to letting go or straight to saying no to a client, but
Mhm.
offer the coaching first. And then if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. And that's okay.
Yeah,
It's going to
and
be better for your
discovery.
organization. Yeah.
Yeah, why do
Mhm.
you want this? Why is this happening? What's your
hmm
side of the story? Here's the feedback I have for you. So you tell me your side, and then
hmm
we'll figure it out. But coaching first, and then you got to be willing to stick to those core values. You called them core for a reason. And sometimes your top performer, even though they're a top producer, is not a top team member.
Right.
Yeah,
hmm
that's tough.
And if they're in a role where they are contributing to the team and needing to be a support member of the team, maybe they're in the wrong seat on the bus, right? And
Wrong
can
seat
find
on the
another
bus.
position, right?
Yep.
And if not, then it's time to let them go.
There you go. But it's harder to
Mhm.
say no to money.
It is. It's really
It's
hard.
harder to take your top producing client, your
hmm
contractor, the contractor that everybody wants to work with, and the contractor that you know has high demands. And the minute they step outside of those core values, you have to be willing to say, we don't need your business to survive.
Right.
And I feel like that's a secret, right? Like if you just do the right thing and you stay committed and you're willing to make those sacrifices to do the right thing, then you're going to be in business 50 years from now.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and you think of the message that sends to your team. You think of the message that sends to other customers and other clients that you could potentially be bringing on when you say like, these are our values and we're not willing to bend on this. They're more willing to come on board now because of that.
You'd be surprised at how many contractors, even if you say, you know what, this is not something we're going to do.
hmm
And to be honest with them and say, like, it doesn't really make us any money. We're kind of spinning our wheels, and it's
Right.
not fair to us. Like, we can't. We're losing money on that.
Right.
How many of them will actually stick around, even though they will try to leverage their business and their volume against you and say, well, we'll just go to your competitor. And the
Right.
moment you say, like, go ahead, I hope they can help you because we can't.
Right?
Yeah, we can't do that. They're like, oh, well, or how many clients have gone to our competitors and not had their needs met and been back a year later.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I had a conversation with a contractor like that was like, hey, we've been with X competitor for so long. And in a sales pitch for us, I guess you could consider that, was like, we took Energuy for granted. We didn't realize all the work you guys did. We didn't realize until we got told no so many times over here that we're really sorry. Like, we should have valued what was going on over here. But if we had not been willing to be like, okay, go ahead, try the competitor, then they would have never had that appreciation, that renewed appreciation for the relationship and partnership we did provide.
hmm Don't know what you're missing out on until you leave.
You guys know
Right.
that, I'm sure, firsthand. No, I'm going to go with the cheaper bid, right? With their websites or whatever. Like, that person's willing to do it for less, and you're in your mind, you're like, okay. And
Good luck.
yeah, good luck with that. And our contractors do the same thing.
Yep.
And that's what I say. Their prices reflect their value because they know what they're bringing to the table.
Right.
Mhm.
And they're like, hey, well, your competitor is going to do it for $4,000 cheaper. And as the person bringing value, our contractors can say, go right ahead. Call me when you need something fixed.
Right.
Because they didn't do it right. Yeah.
Yep.
Or I'm not going to pull a permit. I'll save you $2,000.
Ah,
But that's the thing. Like the amount of contractors that I talk to, I'm like, how many installs have you done in the last week where the system was less than 2 years old because it was installed incorrectly by Chuck in a truck who no longer runs their business? There's no warranty, there's no guarantee. They installed it incorrectly, doesn't work anymore, and now they need to replace it. Like, oh
Yep.
gosh, if only
So
I
many.
could count. Right. Like,
right.
why haven't you posted that to social media?
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. Like, we
Right.
walked into a situation where we were being asked to come back and fix our competitor's issue.
Mhm.
And the reason that they were chosen in the beginning was even like price.
Right.
Hey, and they'll call me up like, hey, so-and-so's in here, they're giving me a better price. And I'm like, I don't know how you operate a business and provide a culture on that price. So
Right.
Yep.
go with them. If that's your value and that's the most important thing, go ahead. Well, 2 years later, you're calling me because you're $500,000 in rebates short to your customers. And you're like, can you help now? Of course we can. Dig in, get those $500,000 of rebates issued, but that's what you have to pay for.
Right.
Yeah. And our clients do the same thing. Like our contractors, I see it in that in your guys' Facebook group all the time, and in a couple other Facebook groups, and they paste the actual text messages in there, like the back and forth between clients, and you're like, you don't know how much you're paying for culture and training and development and your problem to be solved immediately. So I know because I shopped so many places to do our website. And I'm so sorry I didn't know you guys at that time, first of all.
It's all good. It's all good. When you're ready to redo it again, give us a call.
Yeah, that'll happen. But we ended up going with a more expensive version because we felt like that company resonated with our purpose.
Right.
And it wasn't a $10 a job difference. It was like $25,000 of difference. That's big, right? But we felt the difference in the meetings when they were like, so this is what you envision for Energuy. This is what you feel, and this is what your team represents, versus like, this button clicks here and that button clicks here. And you're like, you don't really get it, do you? So the fact that you guys are so immersed in the program and so into your clients' needs and so attuned that we use a media company for HVAC training is like amazing. So good job. And thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
Norris, it's been a pleasure. So, but as we wrap up, we do have one final question.
Uh-oh.
And that is, what is one question that you wish people would ask you more, but don't?
Okay. I wish people would ask us more. I wish people would ask us more about what our team can add, who they don't have to hire because they hire Energuy. Like, I think they ask us about price a lot, and it's really difficult to talk about that because it's like, yeah, you want to bargain with me for $10 a job or something, but do you know that with our team, you could put another $30,000 install in one day on your calendar? Like, what can we do with Energuy, and how much can we utilize you, except for like, instead of what are your prices, what are your services? We customize everything to the contractor's needs and their business model, but normally they're like, how much? So it's like, what? Well, what can you do for me? That's what I want them to ask me. What can you do? Yeah.
So Stephanie, what can you do for me?
Well, like a contractor I referenced a little while ago, we met this contractor at $9 million a year. We took over their permit process, and the following year they were at $12 million a year by not adding any significant staffing. The following year they were at $16 million a year, and the following year they were at $21 million a year. And that install coordinator bought her home for her child, that she was a single mom, and they got to experience that, which is the best part for us, is being a part of that story. But also a general manager made partner, and we watched them grow, and we asked them, like, we said, we're so honored to be a part of these organizations that are so crazy big. You know, when we make a call to your contractor, we put on your brand of hat. Like, we're wearing your shirt, we're calling on behalf of you, of your brand. And just to watch them grow and do all that stuff, we can take all that work off your desk. And imagine not having to hire. We have a staff of 60 people. You don't have to train any of those people. You don't have to hire them. You don't have to do the resumes. You don't have to do the recruiting. We will walk your customers through that difficult process that I went through as a pain in the ass homeowner. We'll answer all those questions. I promise. We got that all buttoned up now. But you just focus on selling and doing what you do best, which is installing. HVAC contractors aren't permit experts. So let us do that. You do your expertise and we'll make it work.
I love it. Although I'm going to say I was a little disappointed. I was kind of expecting you to answer that question with whatever I can get my hands on.
I I learned my lesson.
Evan, I'm so glad you said that. When I was thinking that, at some point in that answer, I was going to interject with that. So I'm glad that you said it.
Slick. I'm going to take another drink.
I do have to ask too, is Bella your daughter?
She is.
All right. Well, when you answered that question the first time, she had that response. So she was watching on YouTube and just said, "Mother."
I didn't mean it like that. But
well, I do just want to say, like, your team has been on YouTube absolutely going back and forth, and all caps too on that too, by the way, from Cam. So they're having an absolute blast, which I do just want to commend Energuy. I mean, not only have you talked about the culture, but you guys are living the culture. Sometimes people come on the shows and they talk this big talk, and I'm not saying this is actually the case for any one person in particular, but people will talk a big talk, but they don't actually walk the walk. And in this case, we're seeing you not only talk the talk, but your team is in here walking the walk and supporting you in the best way possible. And great, like the banter back and forth that I've been watching on this side has been hilarious. So yeah, so I appreciate you, and I
challenge in their hands, and they're enjoying the show.
There you go. And I was going to say, they're enjoying the show, right? And hopefully they enjoyed the show as well. So
thank you for dropping so many nuggets.
Oh man, we'll be publishing this all over the place, and it will become more and more a part of training, because you guys are so, like, what'd you call it? You're the shits?
Something like that.
That's like if you have the shits in the US, it's kind of a bad thing.
Oh, I said we're good shits.
Oh, you're good shits.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Okay. That's my small town Canadianese for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Half our staff is in Canada, so they get it full on, but they'll be using this for training pretty soon.
I love it. Well, I will be the first to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to sit and chat with us. And of course, until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.